Sandy Brondello is officially on the market, and the Indiana Fever better not fumble this bag. Because when one of the most elite coaches in WNBA history suddenly becomes available, and your team just happens to have the most talked about player in the entire league, Caitlin Clark, that's not a coincidence. That's an opportunity. A loud, flashing, blinking sign from the basketball gods. Now, all eyes are on Indiana to see whether they'll take the shot or pass it up like they're afraid of greatness. If you're here for the real story, not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you definitely better subscribe. This whole saga has been wild. In what felt like a blindsiding backstab straight out of a reality show reunion, the New York Liberty dropped a bombshell. Sandy Brondello was out as head coach. No press tour, no slow fade, just gone. And that's where the drama really begins. Because Sandy Brondello wasn't just any coach. We're talking about someone with championship pedigree, years of respect around the league, and a coaching resume that screams Hall of Fame energy. Under her leadership, the Liberty didn't just rise, they soared. She turned a solid roster into a real threat, pushed them to the finals, and secured a ring. You'd think that would buy at least a little job security, right? Apparently not. The Liberty front office pulled the plug and called it a performance decision. But let's be honest, no one's buying that. Coaches with worse records have survived multiple rebuilds. This wasn't about performance. It was about politics. About control. And more than anything, about power. Read between the lines and it starts to look like a warning shot, not just at Brondello, but at Caitlin Clark. Now the rumor mill is spinning so fast it's practically creating its own gravity. Brondello is heading to Indiana. Clark wants her. Fever fans are demanding her. And WNBA insiders are raising their eyebrows so high they're practically in orbit. If this pairing actually happens, it's not just a coaching hire, it's a league-shaking shift in energy. The kind that rewrites narratives, reshuffles power, and makes everyone else sit up a little straighter. Let's rewind for a second. Because the Caitlin Clark, Sandy Brondello connection already has history. During the 2025 All-Star Game, Clark didn't just play the game, she chose her coach. Literally. In a move that looked innocent to casual fans but set off alarm bells in league offices. Clark used her trade powers to bring Brondello in as her all-star coach. And it worked. The chemistry was instant. They looked like they'd been collaborating for years. You could feel it. On the court, Clark looked more relaxed, more empowered, and more dangerous. Off the court, she had nothing but praise for Brondello's leadership. And Brondello lit up every time she talked about Caitlin's basketball IQ and competitive drive. It was a match made in hoops heaven. So, the second Brondello was fired, and the fan base didn't miss a beat. Bring her to Indiana, trended within minutes. Analysts started drawing up imaginary playbooks. Even other players were hinting at the potential. Then things got weird. Just as the hype reached its peak, boom, silence. No interviews, no statements, no official movement. And people started whispering the one thing that always makes sports fans shiver. The league is blocking it. Let's be clear. There's no confirmed conspiracy, no leaked emails, no smoking gun. But when a power duo like Clark and Brondello is this obvious, this needed, and this demanded by fans, yet somehow not happening, it starts to smell like more than coincidence. It starts to smell like fear. Fear of what happens when you put a generational player in the hands of an elite strategist who actually knows how to unlock her full potential. Fear of the balance of power shifting away from the usual suspects towards something new, something disruptive. Because let's not kid ourselves. Caitlin Clark isn't just a star, she's a phenomenon. She's not playing the league's game, she is the game. The ticket sales, the broadcast numbers, the jersey purchases, the viral clips. Clark is bringing a new audience to women's basketball fast. And that kind of spotlight makes people nervous. Especially the old guard. Bringing Brondello to the Fever would be like giving Clark the keys to a race car and telling her to go full throttle. And if you're one of those franchises that's benefited from keeping the hierarchy exactly where it is, that's not the move you want to see. But guess what? That's not Clark's problem. The league can try to slow her roll, but the momentum is already here. Brondello's firing was meant to send a message, but it backfired. Instead of sidelining her, it poured gasoline on the fire. Instead of pushing her out, it cleared a path straight to Indiana. And now the only thing left to do is walk through the door. From a pure basketball perspective, the fit is chef's kiss. Brondello's offense thrives on spacing, sharpshooters, and high IQ ball movement.
Sound familiar?
That's Caitlin Clark's entire blueprint. She doesn't need hand-holding. She needs a tactician. Someone who respects her creativity without boxing it in. And Brondello gets that. This isn't a mentorship. It's a partnership, and it could change the league forever. Think about it. The Fever have already pulled off a major coup by landing Clark. They've got the eyeballs, the potential, and now possibly the coach. If they play this right, they don't just become contenders, they become the team to beat. The new measuring stick. And that's exactly what some folks in power don't want. You think league officials enjoyed watching Clark dominate All-Star Weekend with Brondello on the sidelines? You think they want a team that could rival the dynasties in Vegas or New York? Build around a player who hasn't even hit her prime yet? Please. But the truth is, you can't gatekeep greatness forever. The fans are too loud. The players are too smart. And the league, well, it might be able to stall, but it can't stop what's coming. Whether the WNBA likes it or not, the Clark-Brondello era feels inevitable. And when it happens, it's going to change everything. Because this isn't just about basketball. It's about narrative control. It's about shaking off outdated systems and giving the next generation real power. Not just a spotlight, but a voice. And if the Indiana Fever are bold enough to say yes, to take the risk, to lean all the way in and say, "We're building something new here," they won't just win games. They'll start a revolution. Of course, the league could still try to delay it. Maybe they dangle other offers. Maybe they throw up bureaucratic roadblocks. Maybe they hope fans get tired and move on. But they won't. Not this time. Because now, we know what's possible. We've seen the vision. And once that vision is out there, you can't unsee it. So here's the question. Is the WNBA ready to evolve, or will it keep playing scared? Because Sandy Brondello's out here with a clipboard and a championship pedigree. And Caitlin Clark is already rewriting the rulebook with every step-back three. Together, they're a storm the league can't contain. So grab your popcorn. The next move could reshape everything. And if you're rooting for chaos, legacy, and a little bit of revolution, you might want to start tuning into Indiana. Drop a comment below. Do you think Brondello and Clark will finally team up? Or is the league too scared to let it happen? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more breakdowns of the drama the sports world really doesn't want you talking about. Let's talk about what Sandy Brondello actually brings to the table. Because it's not just clipboard wisdom and sideline stoicism. This woman builds dynasties. She walks into rooms where chemistry is a mess, leadership is shaky, and expectations are sky high. And somehow, she makes it all click. Over and over again. Phoenix championship. New York turned a flashy roster into a real threat. She doesn't just coach, she elevates. Players under her don't just survive, they thrive. Role players become key pieces. Stars shine brighter. And if there's one thing Caitlin Clark needs right now, it's a coach who knows how to elevate without micromanaging. Because let's be real, Clark is walking a razor's edge. She's the face of a new era in women's basketball. A walking headline. A highlight reel. A lightning rod. Everyone has an opinion on her. Whether she's overrated, too flashy, too confident, or the savior of the league. It's a lot. And while she's handled it like a pro so far, you can already feel the weight getting heavier. You don't just throw someone like that into the fire without support. You build around her. You protect her talent. You make sure she's not being set up to fail. You surround her with leaders who understand the pressure, who've been through it, survived it, and know how to steer the ship. And if there's one coach in the league who fits that bill, it's Brondello. What makes this even more poetic is how predictable the resistance has been. The second fans started talking about this pairing, certain corners of the basketball world started subtly throwing shade. Clark doesn't need special treatment. Brondello's system wouldn't fit Indiana's personnel. Maybe the Fever needs someone with a development background. Sound familiar? That's the same old story every time power starts to shift, that it's like clockwork. When something bold, exciting, and disruptive shows up, the reflex is always to doubt it, to poke holes in it before it even begins. But here's the thing. We've already seen what happens when Caitlin Clark is given a system that lets her do her thing. When she's allowed to play free, to create, to bend the game in her favor, she's untouchable. And Brondello? She doesn't suppress creativity. She amplifies it. Let's not forget, she's coached players like Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, and Skylar Diggins-Smith. She knows how to manage superstars and make it work. She understands ego, media pressure, and the scrutiny that comes with being a headline name. This isn't new terrain for her. The real issue here isn't basketball, it's control. Because if the Indiana Fever bring in Brondello and give Clark full freedom under her system, that's not just a coaching decision. That's a power shift. It tells the league, we're not playing by your script anymore. And that terrifies people. Because the WNBA has always been a tightly controlled ecosystem. Who gets the storylines, who gets the airtime, who gets the legacy? It's curated. It's maintained. The balance of power isn't just about wins and losses, it's about narratives. And Caitlin Clark is a walking narrative disruptor. She doesn't play the league's polished PR game. She talks trash. She pulls up from the logo. She moves merch. And now she might be about to get her dream coach, who just so happens to be too problematic for New York. Please. This whole situation feels like a poorly written TV plot twist. A top-tier coach fired right as a rising star needs leadership. The same coach Clark personally chose for the All-Star game. The same coach who instantly becomes divisive. This isn't subtle. It's strategy. But here's the part that makes this saga truly delicious. It might not matter what the league wants. Because fans are no longer passive. They're loud. They're organized. They see the strings and they're calling them out. WNBA Twitter is basically an investigative unit at this point. And TikTok is already editing together highlight reels of what Clark and Brondello could look like on a championship run. People want this. And not just for basketball reasons. They want to watch the establishment get shaken. They want to see what happens when a player who breaks the mold links up with a coach who doesn't need to please the powers that be. This could be the duo that turns Indiana into the epicenter of women's basketball. The pair that flips the super team script and says, actually, we're going to build our empire right here in the Midwest, and we don't need your blessing. And you know what? The league might benefit from it more than they realize. Clark is already drawing in new fans, new demographics, young girls, casual sports bros, and college hoops loyalists who've never watched a WNBA game in their life. She's a magnet, and if you give her a winning team and a legendary coach to match, that magnet becomes a movement. But only if the league stops treating her like a threat, and starts treating her like a pillar. The problem is they're not ready to let go of the steering wheel. They want to grow the game, but only if they get to control how it grows. Only if it fits the vision they've curated for decades. But growth doesn't work like that. It's messy. It's unpredictable. It's organic. And Clark? She's not asking for permission. Brondello isn't either. So now, the Fever stand at a crossroads. Do they take the safe route? The familiar, quiet, non-threatening hire who won't stir things up? Or do they go all in on chaos, choosing legacy over comfort? Because Sandy Brondello isn't just another coach, she's a challenge to the status quo. Not because she's difficult, not because she's controversial, but because she wins. Because she doesn't tolerate mediocrity. Because she knows how the system works, and how to beat it. If the Indiana Fever truly want to rise, if they want to stop being the potential team, and start being the problem for every other franchise, they have one shot. Hire Brondello. Give her full control. Build around Clark. Not just as a player, but as a generational talent who deserves a generational coach. Stop trying to fit into the league's narrative. Start writing your own. Let the power structures tremble. Because if the Fever don't do it, someone else will. Another team will see the writing on the wall, scoop up Brondello, pair her with rising stars, and turn Indiana's hesitation into their own dynasty. That it's a game of chicken now. And Indiana has the better cards. But will they be bold enough to play them? One thing's certain. The fans won't forget. They're watching every move in real time. They're taking names. And if the Fever drop the ball here, the backlash will sting worse than any losing season. So, Fever front office, if you're listening, this is your legacy moment. Don't play it safe. Play it smart. Play it loud. Play like you know you've got a future MVP and one of the greatest basketball minds of this era. Both within reach. Because Sandy Brondello and Caitlin Clark together? That's not a coaching hire. That's a revolution that if Indiana doesn't make this move, they're not just missing out on a coach, they're throwing away a legacy in real time. Lightning doesn't strike twice. You've got a generational player and a championship-caliber coach. Both available, both interested, and both capable of shifting the league's entire gravity. That's not coincidence. That's destiny. Ignoring it would be like holding a winning lottery ticket and framing it instead of cashing it. Right now, Caitlin Clark is in a pressure cooker. She's not just carrying a franchise, she's carrying a movement. Every game, every interview, every slow-motion highlight is dissected like it's a presidential address. And no matter what she does, it's either not enough or too much. But guess who knows exactly what that kind of pressure feels like? From the other side of the clipboard? Sandy Brondello. She's had every decision scrutinized. She's been doubted, fired, and, let's not forget, brought back into the conversation by players themselves. That's rare. For athletes to campaign for a coach? That's not politics. That's respect. You don't fake that. You earn it, in locker rooms, in playoffs, in the huddle during timeout number 6 of a fourth-quarter collapse. Brondello doesn't just survive chaos. She owns it. And that's the exact energy Clark needs right now. Because the truth is, Clark's been set up to be either the savior or the scapegoat. No in-between. If she wins, she's the face of the league. If she loses, she's overhyped and not ready. It's exhausting. And yet, there she is, game after game, still dropping dimes, still taking impossible shots, still smiling through it all. But let's not pretend she can keep doing that without the right support. No one can. LeBron had Spoelstra. Kobe had Phil. Diana Taurasi had Brondello. These things matter. Just look at what Brondello did with Taurasi. She didn't try to dim her light or slow her down. She built a system around her strengths. She made the game bend to her will. And it worked. Championships worked. So why wouldn't you want to give Clark that same opportunity? Unless you don't want her to thrive. That's the uncomfortable question in the room. Because if you know a Brondello, Clark partnership would be good for the Fever, good for fans, and good for the game. Why isn't it already happening? Maybe because success on their terms, Clark's and Brondello's, threatens those who've spent years writing the rules. Maybe it's because not everyone's ready for a future where power doesn't live on the coasts or in legacy franchises. But in Indiana, of all places, let's be real. The Fever has never been the league's golden child. They've been grinding, rebuilding, waiting. And now, finally, they have the spark. Caitlin Clark gave them the gift of relevance. But relevance fades if you don't do something with it. Hiring Brondello isn't about today. It's about who the Fever want to be remembered as. Do they want to be the team that rode Clark's rookie buzz into a few highlight clips and then fizzled out? Or the team that built something real, something that scared every dynasty in the league? Because make no mistake, the top teams are watching this unfold with popcorn in one hand and prayer beads in the other. If Indiana plays this right, the balance shifts. If they play it wrong, the league shrugs and moves on. And deep down, you know there are people who prefer that. People who'd rather Clark be coached into submission by someone safe. Someone who'll tell her to be modest, not rock the boat, and learn the system before daring to lead. They don't want a storm. They want a sprinkle. But you didn't draft Caitlin Clark for a sprinkle. You draft her for a downpour. She's not here to be palatable. She's here to be iconic. And iconic players need iconic coaches. Period. Now let's talk optics, because they matter too. That if you're a young girl watching the WNBA right now, what do you see? A young superstar lighting up the league with fearless talent, and a veteran coach with rings being discarded because she won too much. Because she didn't fit the narrative. What message does that send? Maybe it's time the league stopped gatekeeping greatness and started celebrating it. Let Brondello coach. Let Clark lead. Let Indiana rise. That if you're afraid of dominance, you're in the wrong business. Because in pro sports, dominance is the point. Fans don't want forced parity. They want fire. They want rivalries. They want greatness that feels inevitable, not manufactured. Brondello and Clark are that storyline. They're not easy. They're electric. And Indiana has a once-in-a-generation chance to flip the league on its head. All it takes is courage courage to ignore the whispers, make the bold hire, and believe you can be the franchise that changes everything. Because if they do, if they pull the trigger, lock it in, and let Brondello build around Clark, we're not talking about a good season. We're talking about a new ERA.AN era that doesn't care who's supposed to win. An era where Midwestern teams become powerhouses. Where players choose their people. Where fans watch history unfold in real time. That's what's at stake. The clock's ticking, and the longer Indiana hesitates, the louder the doubt gets. So, Fever front office. This is your legacy moment. The fans are ready. Clark is ready. Brondello is waiting. Are you going to make history or become history? Let us know what you think. Is this the pairing that could change the WNBA forever? Or will Indiana blink and let someone else write the next chapter? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe for more stories the league doesn't want you talking about. And as always, stay messy, stay bold, and keep watching the chaos unfold.